everybody, Razorblade Mango here, and these are my top 10 movies of 2015. I know, it's way past 2015. It's May 2016 now, and yeah, well, I don't usually like to do top 10 movies and bottom 10 movies until I've seen everything that I've wanted to see, and I have, finally. There may be one or two things I'm forgetting about, but you know what? If I forget about them, they're probably not worth it. So, first, let's start with the honorable mentions. This was a really bad year for movies. At least, for me, it was. I mean, even like last year, I know a lot of people consider last year to be really like a low point in movies, but at least last year I'm able to name like at least 4 or 5 movies off the top of my head that I'd go, yes, that was a masterpiece, you need to watch that. I mean, like, Lego Movie, The Raid 2, Nightcrawler, Whiplash, stuff like that. I mean, it's just, like, it can instantly just pop up, and I'll be like, yes, that was fantastic, you need to watch that. This year, it's only, like, a measly one film that I would consider a masterpiece out of everything that was released this year, which has never happened to me before. I've never had a movie I've never had a year where it's just one that I've considered a masterpiece. There's always at least 2 or 3, but this year was just, this is terrible. And I don't know if it was the movies, or if it was me, I don't know if this was the year that my taste in film just dramatically changed or whatever. I can't for the life of me figure it out. It was just a bad year. It was just really disappointing and really uninteresting, and numerous disappointments. I'll address the elephant in the room with Star Wars: The Force Awakens, which I don't think is a bad movie, but I don't think it's a good movie either. I think it's probably the most disappointing thing I've seen all year, and I was bracing myself for disappointment, and I walked out of the theater pretty bummed out. I was like, wow, that was not what I hoped it would be. Basically, my problem with it is it's a remake. It's like the J.J. Abrams effect. It's a remake of a past movie combined with elements from other movies, and trying to recreate iconic scenes in the present. And I can't stand that about J.J. Abrams. And I think J.J. Abrams is a good filmmaker when he's doing like original stuff, like when he's writing original stories, like the Super 8, which I think is really good, Lost, which is one of my favorite shows of all time, and other stuff. But when he does these things that are riffs on past franchises, like Star Trek Into Darkness, and I love his first Star Trek movie because that was an original story. But Star Trek Into Darkness and now The Force Awakens, they're just aping on past glories. And that's what I don't like about J.J. Abrams. He's just kind of turning into a hack for me. But in any case, these are like my honorable mentions. Danny Collins, which is a movie not a lot of people know about, with Al Pacino, which was really good. Really sweet, really down-to-earth kind of movie. Kingsman, which was a lot of fun, much better than I expected. Hateful Eight, while not Tarantino's best, I think is really solid and very interesting. You're not going to see another movie like it from 2015. The Gift, which is the directorial debut from Joel Edgerton, and it's a really interesting psychological drama. I mean, it has kind of a stupid ending, but the rest of it, it's very, very fascinating, and it took it in a direction that I did not expect. And I really liked it. Creed, which I went in expecting it to be very mediocre, but it was really good. I was surprised. And this is how you do it. This is a movie where it takes the legacy of the past movies on its shoulders, but it never tries to ape them, except in the right way, like in the right moments. That's when they do callbacks to the old movies. I think Sylvester Stallone got robbed at the Oscars. I thought he deserved the Best Supporting Actor award because he's just amazing in the movie. Yeah, really good movie. I'm hoping for Creed 2. Love from Gaspar Noé, which a lot of people probably don't know about, but it's a where it has a non-simulated sex in it, and it's really interesting. It's kind of like the 2001: A Space Odyssey of erotica. It's a really interesting hypnotic visual experience, and Gaspar Noé gets that, except. And like any other movie, I think any other director would have treated this just so boring and uninteresting. But the way Gaspar Noé edits the film, cuts together, compares and contrasts the beginning, like traces the roots of this relationship that you see fall apart at the beginning of the movie. It's kind of like Blue Valentine, that Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams movie, except I think this is much better than Blue Valentine because it's much more visually astonishing. I love the way it looks. I love the way it sounds. I love the way it feels. Room, which I rented just because my mom wanted to see it, and I watched it with her, and I really wasn't expecting anything, and I thought it was a very interesting movie. I wasn't sure what it was trying to do within the first half of it, but then once I realized what was going on, I was like, okay, yes, now we're talking. And Brie Larson, who I've always really liked, I think she deserved that Oscar. She was great in the role. The kid was really good, and I'm usually annoyed by kid actors, but that kid was really good. Spotlight, which won the Best Picture award, which I don't think it deserved, but it's still really, really good. It's very well paced, very well acted, very interesting. Really liked it. And final honorable mention, Shaun the Sheep, which is from AntMan. And it's the movie that reminded me how talented they can be. Because they've kind of had a little bit of kind of a low point recently with that Pirates movie, which wasn't all that good. I thought Flushed Away was pretty bad. But this is them returning to their like pure style of animation. And it's really, really gutsy of them in this modern era to release an animated feature film that has no dialogue. I mean, we get a lot of shorts these days that don't have dialogue. I mean, most famously the Pixar stuff. But this is a full 85 minute film that has no dialogue. Its only form of storytelling is visual. And, yeah, I mean, get the occasional grunting from some of the human characters. But that's about it. And I love how simplistic it is, because it makes it timeless. There aren't any stupid like pop culture references and jokes and shit like that. But it just has a lot of charm. It's very funny. It's very warm. It's just a very entertaining family film that I think this is one of those that's like timeless. It's really, really good. If you haven't seen Shaun the Sheep yet, I'd highly recommend it. But yeah, now that the honorable mentions are out of the way, these are the 10 shining stars to me in a very bleak and dark and depressing sky. So let's kick this off. My top 10 movies of 2015. Number 10 is Mad Max: Fury Road. I think I've stated in past videos about, while I do really like Mad Max: Fury Road, I don't love it like the majority of people do. I think it's a very good movie. It's fucking rocks. But I think there's just something about the characterization that just did not sit well with me. I think some of it was rather underwhelming. And in the end, while I did really like it, I wasn't like, whoa, what the fuck? This is fucking amazing! Like I thought from the trailers. Because I was fucking hyped for this movie. This is probably my most anticipated movie of the year, along with The Revenant. I think like those two were like my big two of 2015. And while I was very disappointed with The Revenant, particularly like in its final moments, I really liked Mad Max. And even Mad Max, kind of disappointing a little bit, but still really, really good. And make no mistake, this is a really good movie, really fucking awesome. And I love just the look of Mad Max. If that's one thing I had to pick, I love how it just looks and feels. It doesn't feel like any other action movie out there. It just, right from the get-go, which is the opening, which I love. I love that speech of him like I'm Mad Max, my world is fire and blood, and you get to see all the news clips and the audio from like the past movies and stuff like that. I mean, it gave me chills, and like the way it starts, I think is like, oh my god, this is so good. I love the practical effects. I mean, yes, there are some CGI moments in the movie, like the sandstorm, and of course the Morton Joe's hideout, which is most of that CGI, but I love whenever it's the cars and the practical effects. Even that flaming guitar that the guitar guy has, that's a practical effect. That thing was actually built for the movie. It's so cool. I love the performances. I think Tom Hardy was a very good choice for Mad Max, even though his Max is very different from Mel Gibson's. It's still very interesting. I love his like very silent, badass approach to the whole thing. Charlize Theron as Imperator Furiosa is awesome, and like one of my new favorite film characters of all time. I think she gives Ripley from Aliens a run for her money. She is a badass. And even with the she has a disability. That's what a lot of people, that's the cool thing. That's what a lot of people forget about her characters, that she only has one arm, and yet she almost kills Max just with one arm at one point, and kicks the shit out of most of the enemies that come her way with a disability, and the fact that she's just a badass. I love her. I really like Immortan Joe. I think he's a cool villain. Doesn't have the most depth, of course, but he's still a really interesting villain. I love the mediocre part. And of course, it's been said before, but I love the way this movie treats women. I love it. I love it how it strikes that really good balance between treating them fairly. I mean, there's probably more women in this movie than there are men. And Furiosa, I don't know what a Mad Max sequel is going to be like without Furiosa. I don't know if I want one without her. But she overshadows Max a lot of the times. And I love how there's like different kinds how they treat the women in this movie. There's like the badass women. There's the hunter group they encounter later on who die horribly. It's not like women are treated like sacred cows in this movie. They have some horrible fucking death scenes where like some of them are like run over, shot, stabbed in the throat. There's a point where one of them, the wives, is thrown out of a vehicle and killed, and then has her stomach cut open to get her baby out. I mean, it's fucked up. But I like how they do that, but it never feels cruel. It always feels like the gender politics of it is very evenly handled. I love that aspect of it. I love the action scenes. I think the scene, especially the climax of the movie, is fantastic. The way it's all edited and shot, it's very clear. It's all shot with this really great widescreen effect. It just like you clearly see everything happening, all the guts, all the dirt, all the sweat. It just looks authentic. It looks like a real movie. Like so many movies, like particularly action movies, come out these days, and they just feel so poorly edited. They're so slapdash. They're so filled with so much CGI bullshit, and it feels hollow. This is a movie where the action is like you are right there in the action. You are in the sweat and heat of the moment. It is beautiful. And yeah, it's a beautiful movie too. I love the way it looks. The cinematography, I think, is great. The visuals, I think, are fantastic. Even the CGI, which I think there's only I think the most of the movie is only like 20% CGI, but the CGI is used really effectively. It looks gorgeous. It blends seamlessly with the environments. And even in Morton Joe's hideout, I didn't think that was a CGI effect in the beginning, but then finding out later, I was like, oh wow, that looked really cool. But yeah, Mad Max Fury Road, even though it's number 10, I know that's going to surprise a lot of people, because I'm probably going to post this as the thumbnail. This or my next choice, one of the two. But I really like Mad Max Fury Road. And I was telling a coworker a few days ago who hadn't seen it yet, you are missing out. If you haven't seen Mad Max Fury Road yet, you owe it to yourself to watch it. It's really, really good. And in a day and age when so many old franchises try to come back and just sputter, this is one where, even though it's like the original director, George Miller, he fucking jump starts the fucking franchise back to life. He throws a hefty amount of gasoline into that kind of long abandoned car, and it just roars back to life. This is a franchise that just bursted out of the ashes like a fucking phoenix, and now everybody's like, oh my god. So yeah, Fury Road, really, really good. One of the best revivals of a franchise I've ever seen. It doesn't feel cynical. It feels like a love letter to this kind of cinema. It's clearly a passion project for George Miller, and it works really, really well. Number 9 is Sicario. And this is a movie I was actually really disappointed that it didn't get more of a following that it ended up getting, because I think this is a damn compelling movie. It has its problems. I think the morality play that they try to do is just really kind of simplistic and not particularly interesting, rather underwhelming. I think Emily Blunt was really bad in the leading role. I don't think she was good in the movie at all. Just the way a lot of the morality probing plays out, it just kind of felt half-assed to me. It's like I've seen all of this before. All of the, oh, you're doing something that's off the books. I don't know how to feel about that if it gets the job done. It's like I've seen it all before. But almost weirdly enough, it almost doesn't matter in the long run. And I'll tell you why. What makes Sicario really, really good and really stand out, even with its rather, not very interesting morality shit and a brutally boring leading performance from Emily Blunt, is how goddamn amazing the audio-visual presentation is. I mean, we don't get, for me at least, we don't get a lot of movies these days that know how to combine visuals and music to such an impactful effect. And I think this is one of the very few, particularly this year, that did it right. Where the soundtrack is great, and mixed with Roger Deakins' beautiful cinematography, it creates such this uncomfortable, tense vibe to it. There's this probably like one of my favorite scenes of the year, and it's suspenseful to the point where I was literally almost shaking in my seat when I saw it. Is the scene where they have to go into I think it's Juarez or something like that. It's one of I think it's Juarez, the Mexican city. And while they're driving through it, they have to go to this safe house to extract this prisoner, and then they have to drive out and go back across the border to the United States, and it's this big, long, tense scene that has so much build-up, so much great, tense build-up, and when you finally get there, you see people, decapitated, there's people that are, hung by the neck from freeways. I mean, it's gory as shit. And looking at it, you really get the sense of, oh god, they are descending into a hell, and this is bad. This could get fucked. This could go fucked, any second. And it does eventually in this great action scene on the Border Patrol highway, where they have to keep an eye on cars that follow them, and then the cartel members have to come out and sneak up with guns and try and shoot them to recapture their prisoner. It's so good. It's like one of the best scenes of the year. I loved it to death. I think that was the high point of the movie. Also, the other performances besides Emily Blunt I thought were great. I thought Josh Brolin, who's always really, really good, I thought he knocked it out of the park with this. But the career highlight performance of the movie, my boy Benicio del Toro, who even like with not very many words initially, you see him not grow, but he becomes more developed as the story goes on, and he delivers this terrifying, stellar, intimidating performance. I loved Benicio del Toro in this movie. It fucking pisses me off that, and I don't really care much about the Oscars anymore, but it pisses me off that he didn't at least get a nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He was the best performance in that movie, head and shoulders above everybody else. But yeah, as a story, like as a narrative, Sicario is not all that great. It's just it's meh. It's rather mediocre, kind of. There are points where it does get better at the end, in one scene with Benicio del Toro that I loved. But where it counts as a cinematic sensory experience, I think Sicario is better than every movie this year. Not this year, last year. I think it blows every other movie out of the water from 2015 purely on an audio-visual level. I think it looks like the combination of both the music and the visuals are what really sell Sicario, and Benicio del Toro and some of the set pieces, which are fantastic and shot beautifully. So if you haven't seen Sicario, which I wouldn't blame you if you've never heard of it, try to find it. It's fantastic. And if you aren't shaking in your seat during that Horaz scene, I don't know. I don't know what you'd shake in your seat for, but it's awesome. Number 8 is The Night Before, and I actually almost forgot about this movie. I initially wanted to see it in theaters, but I never had time. But I was really surprised by how good this was. The Night Before, with Seth Rogen, Anthony Mackie, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Lizzie Kaplan. I mean, it's got a really awesome cast. And I think at this point, I figured I'd be tired of these Seth Rogen movies, which, unlike, and it's a miracle that I'm not, but I think Seth Rogen, particularly with this movie, and it's not just Seth Rogen, it's the writers, it's the director, who I think is really talented. I think it's Jonathan Levine, who's the director, who's really, really good, who did 50-50, which is the other movie from them, and from Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen, and he again makes a really funny, heartwarming movie. And we don't get a lot of Christmas movies anymore, and I think this is one of the few that knows how to effectively combine like all these different genres. Like, it's a Christmas movie, it's a stoner movie, it's a comedy, it's a kind of a drama in a way, and at some points, a romance, a heartwarming character growth story, and all of that combined, it makes this really fascinatingly unique little movie. And a lot of stoner movies, even the good ones, like the original Harold and Kumar, and some of the Cheech and Chong stuff, whenever they use weed, it's usually just in the form of, like, a gag. It's like, oh, well, we're smoking weed, woo! And that's the gag. But what's cool about The Night Before, and I realized this after reading a really good review from somebody I know, is that this movie uses weed as character development. It's used in a way that inspires the characters to go through changes. I mean, not to give too much away, just for example, there's a character that is going through something really personal, like health-wise, but when he uses weed, he realizes that this is not the way to go, that this is a path that he does not want to follow, and he needs to change, and he's going to become a better human being for it. And I loved that, and I loved how drugs in this movie is used as a way to... It's almost like a way of... It's almost like a pro-marijuana legalization movie. It's so weird, but it's so good at the same time, and it's really fucking funny. There were a lot of points where I was laughing out loud, particularly at some of the, like, when Seth Rogen takes too big of a hit of PCP and he just starts losing his shit. That I thought was hilarious. And even in the points where it sometimes can get like rather painful to watch. I mean that in a good way. There's a scene particularly like at the end, not in the end, but like one of the climaxes of the movie is rather painful to watch, but it's painful in the right way where you watch it and you're like, "Oh god." I mean, I know people that have done something like that before, but this is so not fun to watch. It's so difficult. But it's so cool at the same time. There's really not much more I could say about The Night Before. It's just a really funny, really surprisingly insightful little Christmas stoner movie that I don't think got the attention it deserved. But if it's on DVD right now, and now's the perfect time to see it. I mean, it's really, really good. It may even change your mind about marijuana. That's not a stretch to say. If you're somebody that doesn't want to legalize marijuana, this movie might change your mind in some weird way. Maybe. Who knows? Number 7 is AntMan. And again, this is one of the biggest surprises of the year for me because, to be honest, I am somebody that is getting a little burned out on Marvel movies. I mean, sure, I like the majority of them, and I really, really, really like some of them, and I love a few of them. But to me, because of how often they release them, to me they're kind of just, I don't know, they're starting to just lose their appeal to me. Even with movies like Ant-Man that I really enjoy. I think it's more or less the stuff that's related to like the Avengers that I'm more or less burned out on because I'm really excited for Doctor Strange. But I don't know. It's just a franchise. Like whenever I see the Marvel movies, I'm just like, oh, all right, here's another one. And I really, really did not like Age of Ultron. I thought Age of Ultron was pretty crappy. It was a very troubling sign for me that this franchise was just growing boring and stale and uninteresting. And yet, a movie will come along like Ant-Man that proves that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even after all these years, can still surprise me. And somewhat rejuvenate my interest in this franchise. I mean, compared to recent Marvel films, Ant-Man is very low-key compared to the rest. And I really appreciated that because after the barrage of boring, shallow special effects and action that was Age of Ultron, I thought Ant-Man was kind of a back-to-the-basics kind of thing. It had mild connections to the overall universe, and the movie ends with that teaser for Civil War. But, you know, it's like, it feels divorced from, except for a few scenes, it feels very divorced from the current Marvel stuff. It has very organic comedy. It's more like a heist movie. It's like a heist comedy in a way that has a really, really excellent action scene at the end. Like, the one time it uses an action scene, it's the right time. And it's very entertaining, and it fulfilled a childhood dream of mine of seeing two people fight on top of Thomas the Tank Engine, which, like, when I saw that, I, like the fucking, like, 5-year-old boy in me was just like, oh my god, this is happening! I never in my life thought I would see that, but bless you, Ant-Man, for doing that for me. And I think this movie benefits from having a really talented writer at the helm, which is Edgar Wright. And even though Edgar Wright left the project due to creative differences, probably because Marvel wanted him to shoehorn more bullshit from the cinematic universe in there, rather than keep it self-contained. And, you know, Edgar Wright, there are traces of Edgar Wright still here. And it feels more like an Edgar Wright movie than it does a cynical, boring, stale Marvel machine movie. And I gotta be honest, guys, I'm gonna see Civil War just out of obligation more than out of genuine interest. Because honestly, I could kind of take or leave Civil War at this point. I'm just kind of like, meh, whatever. I mean, I'll go see it, but I'm not really, like, hyped for it like a lot of people. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Spider-Man's in it, and I just go, yeah, I don't care. I mean, I love Spider-Man, but I just don't care. I'm just like, meh, whatever. But yeah, AntMan was really, really good, and I really liked how it was this heist comedy, which is something we've never seen from the Marvel movies before, and it felt different, which was the key to it. It didn't feel like an overbloated bullshit fest. It was very low key, even with big special effects. It had a centralized story. It has its problems, like the majority of movies I've seen. It has its problems. I think it continues that tradition of Marvel movies not exactly knowing what to do with its female characters or just writing them in a really stupid way. Which is sad because I really like Evangeline Lilly, who's a good actress, but she's kind of wasted in this movie. Hopefully she has a better part in the next Ant-Man, where she's finally going to be the Wasp. Michael Douglas, who I never thought I'd see in a Marvel movie, gives a good performance as Hank Pryce. As Hank Prince, he's really, really good. And he brings that gravity to the movie. Because any of this situation, it's like, oh, it's a guy that can shrink in his suit. Whatever, it sounds so stupid. But delivered by Michael Douglas? It's like you kind of believe it. And that goes to show what a very excellent actor he is. And even Paul Rudd. I don't really like Paul Rudd. I think Paul Rudd annoys me a lot of the time. But he was a good choice for Ant-Man. But yeah, if you're like me and you're tired of Marvel movies and you skipped Ant-Man because you were kind of like, oh, whatever, who gives a shit? Give it a chance. It might surprise you. It definitely surprised me because I saw it more just because I was bored. Like one night, which was with friends, we were like, fuck it, we'll just go watch Ant-Man, whatever. But I ended up really enjoying it. And that, I did not expect that. And I gotta give props to Marvel for allowing these like really low tier superheroes, giving them their own movies, and at least in this situation, it gave it the same respect and care that it tries to give that its other Marvel movies, except it does in Ant-Man. It works here. Doesn't work in Age of Ultron. Might not work for me in Civil War, but it works here. And I look forward to the second movie. And I hope Marvel does more risky projects like this, because if they keep putting the level of effort that they did into Ant-Man, it's going to pay off. And it's going to be awesome. Alright, now with number 6, we are getting into like the great and up category. And these are movies, these next 6 are movies that I would have no problem recommending to people, no caveats whatsoever. I love these movies, I think they're great. Only one of them I'd consider a masterpiece, but starting with number 6 is Bridge of Spies, which is hands down Spielberg's best film since Saving Private Ryan, in my opinion. I think it's even better than, I know a lot of people love Minority Report, people like, what was the, Lincoln. I think it's much better than Lincoln as far as his dramas go. But the biggest compliment I can give Bridge of Spies is that it shows what a master Steven Spielberg is in the art of filmmaking. He knows how to make a movie. He knows excellent pacing. He knows great writing. He knows great storytelling. He knows how to make it where characters, when they interact, it's interesting and there's a beat to it. Great visuals. I love the look of the movie. The performances are excellent from Tom Hanks and Mark Rylance, who I think are fantastic. And it's all in all just this really fascinating story. I mean, yes, you could debate the political aspects of it until you're blue in the face. But honestly, I don't think that matters in the long run. I really just was uninterested in debating it on a political level because I just didn't care. I loved how it looked as a movie. I thought it was gorgeously shot, extremely well acted, just fascinating little story, and it's so well paced. That's the thing I just can't get over. It's so well paced. At like almost 2.5 hours, the movie even though it does, and I watched it twice in a row. I watched it by myself, and then I watched it with my mom. And both times, I was like, I cannot believe this is almost 2.5 hours long. Because it doesn't feel like that. It does that trick, that really excellent trick that masters of cinema know how to do, where something is paced so extremely well that it feels like you're able to both recognize the length of it, but it doesn't feel that length because you're so into what's going on. It feels shorter than it really is, but it feels epic at the same time. That's what the best long movies like this do. The best, even short movies, even like really short movies like 75 minutes to like, I don't know, 80 minutes, if they're paced really well, you feel satisfied. They feel like a full package. They came in, they did their thing, and they left you wanting more in a good way. And that's how I feel about Bridge of Spies. It came in, it did its thing, it got in, got out, and it told its story, and it left me wanting more in a good way. And I think I love this is the movie that I think, like, after all these years, I haven't really loved a Steven Spielberg film since Saving Private Ryan. I mean, I think he's kind of had a up and down career for the past 15 years. And stuff like Minority Report, which I think is really good. Catch Me If You Can is good. Munich's really good. But then there's stuff like War of the Worlds that I just don't like, or War Horse, which I'm meh about, or dog shit like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But this is a movie that gets him back on like the high tier of filmmakers. It baffles me that this wasn't recognized more at the Oscars, but it is a damn fantastic movie. It is the best film of Steven Spielberg's in years, almost 2 decades. And it gives another notch on Tom Hanks' belt for like these really incredible, remarkable leading man performances. I mean, Tom Hanks is one of our best actors. I mean, he is definitely in that top, like, I'd say like top 5 of best actors living to date. He is fantastic in this movie. Like I said, I don't think Mark Rylance deserved that Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, but he was fucking fantastic in the movie anyway. But yeah, Bridge of Spies, Steven Spielberg's best film in many, many years. It's awesome. Even if you're somebody that looks at it and goes, "Oh God, it's a political drama," whatever. It's awesome, and it's very entertaining. Even with all the political stuff, it is a highly entertaining, fascinating story. Number 5 is Pixar's Inside Out, and I'm not sure if I've ever declared this on the show, but I'm a fucking Pixar nut. I love Pixar to death. I've always loved them ever since I was young. I'm pretty sure A Bug's Life was the first movie I ever sat through all the way in a theater. I'm pretty sure. Maybe that or Toy Story. One of the two. But I feel like Pixar recently has kind of hit, like Aardman, kind of hit a low point. Like with stuff like Cars 2 and Brave and others that I just don't think were all that interesting. I think their last masterpiece was Toy Story 3, which I think is one of my favorite movies ever. One of my very favorite, like top 10 of all time, along with Up and WALL-E. I love that era of Pixar, the like weird experimental stuff like The Incredibles and Ratatouille and WALL-E and Up and Toy Story 3. And now with Inside Out, I think they are finally back to that experimental era that made me like really hardly fall in love with them back in like my late middle school, early high school years. I mean, Inside Out is just very wise and sweet and funny, and it has that really amazing Pixar vibe to it. Really awesome characters. I love the look of it. I think it looks beautiful. I think the defamiliarization of the character going through not only puberty but like growing up. It's got kind of a bittersweet message at the end where like life is more filled with it's like a blend of happiness and sorrow. It's kind of like a weird message, but it's true. It is your life does get more melancholy, and I love that Inside Out and Disney and Pixar are willing to tackle such a really deep a troubling little message, but it works. And also the ending, I think, is one of the biggest tearjerkers I've come across in quite some time. I mean, I tend to get more emotional during movies as the older I get, but I think like I was like flat out, like not sobbing, but I had quite a few tears coming down my face during the end of it. When I'm not gonna spoil how, but you'll know the scene when you see it. It's beautiful. It's very emotionally effective. But I wouldn't go so far as to call Inside Out a masterpiece, and I definitely don't rank it among Pixar's best. Partially just because of my problems with the middle point of the movie. I think it has a fantastic opening, it has a fantastic ending, and the middle point, while very good, kind of suffers from it occasionally wanders into like, oh well, we don't really know what to do kind of territory. It just kind of goes, oh well, all right, I guess we'll try this out and see if it sticks. It kind of loses that pacing midway into the movie. But by the end, it picks up the slack, and it gets back and comes back in like a high emotional note. It's lovely. It's wonderful. Inside Out, fantastic movie. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have Pixar back. I mean, even though The Good Dinosaur was merely just good, it's still far more interesting than most of the animated movies out there. They're trying something new, and Inside Out is them trying something new. Good Dinosaur is them trying something new, and working to much less effect, but they're getting back into the swing of things. And then they're doing Finding Dory this year, which I'm not the biggest fan of Finding Dory. I like it. I think it's good, but I would have rather they done an original movie again. I think the only sequel of theirs that I'm really looking forward to is The Incredibles 2. Maybe Toy Story 4, just because of how I've heard they're going to handle it, which I think is the only way it should be done. If you're going to do a Toy Story 4, you have to do a movie where they go find Bo Peep. That's the only thing you can do. I don't want to see any other further adventures of whatever her name is that adopted the toys after Andy. That's all I want to see. Just Woody going to find Bo Peep. That's pretty much it. That's all I want to see. Incredibles 2, of course, and Cars 3. Oh, God, Cars 3. Oh, God, no. Please, no. But Inside Out. It's awesome. Let's appreciate Inside Out while it's still fresh in our minds. It's a wonderful animated movie. It's one of those movies that doesn't have dumb pop culture references. It's timeless. It's beautiful. It's heartwarming. And it's awesome. It's their best movie since Toy Story 3 by a very large margin. And while I don't think it deserved the best animated win of the year, that is gonna come later. What I thought should have won. So yeah, Inside Out. It's awesome. Watch it if you haven't. Number 4 is The Intern. I know, I hear a lot of people right now going, what the fuck, this? What the fuck is this? A romantic comedy? Romantic comedy bullshit over fucking Inside Out and Mad Max Fury Road? What the fuck, dude? What the fuck is wrong with you? Hold on, calm down, hear me out. This movie works strictly and almost exclusively because of Nancy Meyers, who I think is one of the most talented writers in the business. She is wonderful. Nobody writes like her. She knows how to write characters that make sense. Their development is interesting and organic to the storytelling. A lot of really witty observational humor. It makes so many smart decisions. A lot of her movies do. I think except The Holiday, which is bullshit. But the rest of her movies, like What Women Want, Something's Gotta Give, It's Complicated, and now The Intern, are awesome. They're all really well written, very interesting, so many good characters. And particularly The Intern, which I think is, next to Something's Gotta Give, I think this is her best movie. It's a great film. Lots of really good humor, lots of really nice laughs without being too stupid or too crude or whatever. And it makes so many smart decisions with its storytelling. I mean, there were a few points during the movie where I thought it was going to go down the usual bullshit comedy route, or the thing where characters don't talk and they let a misunderstanding ruin it and shit like that. I fucking hate it when movies do that. I hate it when movies force conflict by writing characters like dumb idiots, where they don't talk about their fucking problems and they don't behave like adults, and it's just to make the movie go on longer. And I was like, oh no, I hope it doesn't go wrong here, because it's going so well. But no, this movie, it's so smart, and it sidesteps every single pitfall it could possibly go into. These characters, who are played very well by Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro, the main two, they behave, think, and communicate like real adults. This is a real adult comedy, and not in a way that's like, not adult like crude humor and they say fuck every other word, like adult, like mature. And it was a treat and a fucking relief to see such maturity portrayed in this genre, this like comedy genre, where so many problems occur because the main characters don't communicate. They don't behave like normal fucking people. They behave like idiots. And that's what this movie sidesteps completely. These characters are smart. They are resourceful. They know how to effectively talk to one another. They know how to talk about their problems. And there came a point where I thought they were going to force some bullshit conflict between Anne Hathaway and Robert De Niro. But no, these characters sit down and they talk and they develop as people. And you actually you literally see these characters grow and develop right before your very eyes because of how fantastic the writing is. They are smart. They work out their problems like real adults, not like dumb children that don't know how to talk to one another. And that was a delight. I walked out so hyped about this movie. Just, wow, this movie was great. I thought this movie was so good. This is everything I've wanted comedies, romantic comedies, whatever's to be, like this kind of adult comedy kind of thing. This, to me, is the high point for this decade. The Intern is like the best thing. It's better than most dramas and most comedies that get nominated for fucking Oscars because of how smart it is, because of how intelligent Nancy Meyers is as a writer, as a director. She's very efficient, very lean. She cuts out all the dumb fat and all the stuff that could be problematic, all the stuff that could lead to dumb, forced conflict. It is smartly handled. It is dealt with it's just this breath of fresh air coming in with this genre, and only Nancy Meyers can deliver something like this. And she hasn't made a movie since It's Complicated back in 2009. So this is her first movie in 6 years, and what a hell of a grand return for her. Bless you, Nancy Meyers. Bless you for making a movie that deals with adult situations with fucking sanity and realism. This is how adults communicate. Listen up, movies. Go watch The Intern. That is how you write character development. Not this dumb bullshit other way. The Intern. That is the golden standard for really smart character development. Number 3 is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Hands down the best film in the series yet. And you would think with a film series hitting its 5th entry, I mean, it would start to feel just boring and routine and just so uninteresting, but in the case of Rogue Nation, it's never been better. I mean, Christopher McQuarrie, who's a fantastic writer, he also wrote and directed Jack Reacher, which is one of my favorite action movies of the past decade, of this decade. He brings such a superb craftsmanship and wit and dynamism, and so good. It's like an action movie that feels epic. It feels complete. It combines CGI and practical effects so well. I love the characters again. Like Rebecca Ferguson now is this rogue British intelligence agent. She's the perfect foil to Tom Cruise. She and her have really fascinating, a little secretive, silent character development between the two. I'm very happy she's returning for the sequel. All the other old players are back as well. Ving Rhames, who's still awesome. Jeremy Renner, who's given more to do this time around. Simon Pegg, who's still really, really funny. Tom Cruise, who is still a badass, even though I know a lot of people would probably be tired of him at this point, but no, he's still one charismatic son of a bitch. He knows how to do this series justice by now, and all they needed was just the right director and writer, and you've got him in Christopher McQuarrie, who's a fantastic writer and a fantastic director. This has some of the series' best action scenes, even though, and it's weird that, for me, as far as the action goes, the one I was the least engaged with was that plane scene that's been so heavily marketed. I was shocked that was the opening scene, and I thought it was a little underwhelming, but everything after that I thought was fantastic, particularly the Opera House scene, which is one of my favorite scenes, not only of the year, but like ever. I loved it. Loved it. It almost, just the way it was shot and choreographed and edited, it felt like a dance. It felt like this beautiful symphony of an action scene. And it literally, just the sheer craftsmanship of it almost brought a tear to my eye. Because I've never seen anything like it in a long time. It takes a lot of influence from Brian De Palma, from Hitchcock, but it works. It's one of the best action scenes of all time, as far as I'm concerned. Also, the action scene with like the motorcycle and the car chase, I thought was awesome. The part where Tom Cruise has to go underwater to disable the security thing, I thought was awesome. The whole action scene at the end with the villain, and he has to memorize the bank account numbers in order to negotiate a deal. I love that. I love the character development between, I think I've already said that, but I love just the silent, growing respect that Tom Cruise and Rebecca Ferguson's characters have in this movie. Like, they communicate in such a unique way where they don't spell it out for you like these two are growing to respect one another, but you get that sense through the writing, through the way these guys act. And it's refreshing to see character development like this between, and it's not this like lovey-dovey, dumb relationship bullshit. It's like a mutual respect between two people that know the ins and outs of this game, that know the ins and outs of the spy game. And that was fascinating to watch. But if you want to hear more about what I thought of it, I did a Mission Impossible Rogue Nation review a long time ago. Go ahead and watch that. That gives you more details on what I loved about it. But I loved Rogue Nation. I cannot wait for the next one. And I never thought I would say that, because I honestly was really underwhelmed by Ghost Protocol, but Rogue Nation did it for me. Rogue Nation is, hands down for me, the best Mission Impossible movie to date, and one of the best action movies of this decade. Number 2 is Furious 7. The 7th Fast and the Furious movie. Jesus Christ. And yet, it's the best one in the series. Like Mission Impossible, it's so weird. Like this and Mission Impossible, it's like it's a late entry in the series, in a series that should be tired as fuck by now, and yet brings so much new energy and life to it, and joy, that you can't help but just go, oh, all right, you can keep going. This was pretty awesome. You can keep going. The Furious 7, to me, not only is it extremely entertaining action movie, it's like literally 2 hours of just pure, shamelessly fun and cheesy and fun action genre stuff. It's like the funny one-liners, the great comedy, the very well-edited action, just this genuine, palpable sense of joy. And I think for my money, this is the funnest movie of the year. It's the funnest one out of everything I've seen. This is the one that I was like laughing with glee during most of it. Also, it's a special case with Furious 7, of course, with Paul Walker dying during the production of it. And I was actually concerned that they were going to pull some dumb bullshit where they were going to kill him in the movie. And I thought, oh, great. Like, the whole movie, I kept waiting, like, oh, great. When are they going to kill him? And it's going to be really stupid and dumb. And the exit that Paul Walker gets out of this movie, and out of the franchise, and out of life, is that it's really sweet, unexpectedly sweet, and classy, and respectful. And while it feels a little jarring the way they do it, I mean, this is one of those times, this is one of those rare occasions where something feels so jarring, and yet I accept it and I forgive it. And it works, because, I mean, what the fuck else were they going to do? They were in a situation where they could not do anything else that wasn't dumber than this. I mean, this is the only way you could have done it. And it's respectful, and it's a very fitting tribute and farewell to Paul Walker and to this character. And it's going to be weird not having him around in Furious Fast 8 or Fast 7, whatever Furious 8, Fast 8, whatever they're going to call it next. It's going to be weird. But going back to Furious 7, this movie is fun. It is just pure, unadulterated, shameless fun. And I know a lot of people look at these movies and go, oh god, they're just so stupid and they just don't care anymore. Yeah, it's stupid. Yeah, it's dumb. Who fucking cares? It's a lot of fun. And this is coming from somebody who has never seen Fast and the Furious 1, 2, 3, or 4. I only got into this series after 5, which I love Fast 5. I think 5 is the best one. Well, one of the best ones. Fast Furious 6 I thought was okay. And now Furious 7, which I think is great. I think is one of the best action movies I may have ever seen. I think there are set pieces in this movie that put Fury Road to shame. Like the whole part where they skydive with cars, which I thought was awesome. And then the whole street fight at the end where it's like this superhero battle between Vin Diesel and Jason Statham. It's so awesome where they just like hit each other with crowbars and shit, and they just merely get, you know, like little bruises just from hitting each other with crowbars. And Vin Diesel literally stomps the ground and then the ground cracks up. It's so ridiculous, but it's so cool. There's a part where they have to sneak into this prince's apartment to hijack his car, and there's this great scene where they have to sneak in and the car gets driven through 3 different skyscrapers, and it's so awesome. And then The Rock has a really great fight with Jason Statham. Digimon Hanzo comes in as the secondary villain who's really good, but it's just pure genre filmmaking. And as an action movie, this is fantastic. You really cannot get any better. At least in like most situations, you cannot get any better than Furious 7. Which, I mean, I actually kind of hate it when people dismiss it like, oh, it's stupid, it's whatever, it's just mindless, dumb bullshit. But it's so much fun. And honestly, like between this, Furious 7, or like one of those serious dramas that the Oscars like fawn over, I would take Furious 7. I honestly couldn't care less about most of the dramas that are nominated for Best Picture or what the fuck ever. But Furious 7, I would take Furious 7 any day over your average Oscar schlock. Just whatever. Give me Vin Diesel and The Rock and Paul Walker and Tyrese and Ludacris and all these guys just running around and blowing shit up and just having a grand old time. I'd take that over any serious movie any day of the week. Furious 7 is awesome. It's just awesome. And if you haven't seen it yet, because you're like, oh, I fucking hate the last ones or whatever, or you just don't like cars, you're not somebody that likes racing, these movies are not about racing anymore. These are about heists and action scenes with cars. And it's awesome. And I think this movie is so much fun. It's a fucking blast. What more can I say? I really, really enjoy Furious 7. And I would take it over most movies. most serious dramas, most serious stuff, most comedies even, I would take that. And as a lover of action movies, as a lover of comedy, as a lover of cinema, I think Furious 7 does it for me in ways most movies just can't compare. And now, finally, my number one movie of 2015. The only movie I would ever consider a straight-up masterpiece on this list. Far and away the best movie of last year. When Marnie Was There. This is made by Studio Ghibli. And if you don't know who Studio Ghibli is by now, shame on you. This is one of their finest achievements. It's one of the best films I've ever seen. And sadly, it might be their last. So this, to me, is kind of like a swan song for Studio Ghibli. And boy, I haven't been this emotionally overwhelmed by a movie in a very long time. This is a movie that felt like it spoke to my very inner core. It helped me get over some personal stuff in like a weird, beautiful way. It's very profound. It's incredibly beautiful, deeply moving, lovely animation, just gorgeous scenery. I love the way it looks. I love the way it this relaxed seaside atmosphere mixed with this really interesting ghost story, and it's just I honestly didn't know what to expect going into this. And I got to be honest. I didn't know what to expect because this was like, it's not made by it's not made by Hayao Miyazaki. I almost said Hidetaka Miyazaki. That's a completely different thing. Hayao Miyazaki. It's not made by Sao Takahata. It's made by the guy that did Secret World of Arrietty, which I thought was okay. I thought it was one of the lesser Studio Ghibli films. But this movie, this is where he comes into his own, and he delivers a movie that is very close to being the best thing they have ever done. And I'm talking already, I think this is better than Spirited Away. I think this is better than Grave of the Fireflies. I think this is better than Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I think this is better than the majority of Studio Ghibli movies. I think the only Studio Ghibli movies I would put above When Marnie Was There would be like Whisper of the Heart, Porco Rosso, and Princess Mononoke, which are not necessarily in that order, but I think those are like my big three from Studio Ghibli. Porco Rosso, Princess Mononoke, and Whisper of the Heart. And When Marnie Was There joins that list as like one of the very best films that they've done. Walking in, I kind of knew what it was about. I knew it was a ghost story, but I didn't expect to react to it like I did. I mainly saw it just because I'm like, well, it's Studio Ghibli. I just might as well. Fuck. I had driven like a long way to go watch The Wind Rises in Japanese in LA, and I thought that was a very good movie. Not like one of Miyazaki's best, but very good. I was disappointed by the Tale of Princess Kaguya. I thought like it had a strong opening 2/3, and then the last third to me just kind of felt unnecessarily depressing, and I didn't like it. Maybe I like it more on the second viewing because I haven't seen it in quite a while now. But I think When Marnie Was There, as far as a swan song for Studio Ghibli, I think this is the best one, and it works in a different way than Miyazaki's or Takahata's, where this is more of a message of healing and of hope. And I love the idea of, ghosts, of people that have passed on coming back to help you get over stuff that is like bothering you on this earth. I mean, it's a very emotional story. And I must say, I saw this with a friend, and by the end of the movie, oh man, both of us were like in tears, like flat out. Like me, I think I was like flat out sobbing at one point. I mean, it just got to be way too much by the ending. Just the final like beat that it hits is just holy shit. It caught me completely off guard, and I just wept like a goddamn baby, and I loved it. I just immediately I loved it already. I thought it was a beautiful film, just from the atmosphere and the visuals and the writing and the beautiful character development. I think this, in better ways than The Wind Rises or Tale of Princess Kaguya, I think this upholds their tradition, allows Studio Ghibli to go out on an extremely high note from them. I just love everything about this movie. I've seen it, I have it on Blu-ray, and I've seen it 5 times now. And while, of course, it's not going to have the same impact on me like it did when I first saw it, I still think it's very deep, it's very interesting, it's very well written, very well voice acted. I mean, a lot of credit doesn't really go to the voice actors a lot of the time when I read reviews of these things, but I gotta give credit to the voice actresses behind the main 2 characters. I love just the combination of the surreal, the fantasy, the ghosts, the supernatural stuff, the realism. I mean, it's kind of like a combination. It's like a very mild spirited away mixed with oh god damn it, what is the Only Yesterday. It's kind of like a very mild spirited away mixed with Only Yesterday. It's kind of like that. That's kind of how I describe When Marnie Was There. But if you haven't seen it yet, do yourself a service, especially if you love Studio Ghibli as much as I do and are very sad that this might be their final film. Go out and watch When Marnie Was There. It is a gorgeous film. It is hands down my favorite film of 2015. And as much as I like Inside Out, I thought When Marnie Was There was hands down the best animated film of the year, the best film of the year, and one of the best films I have ever fucking seen. I love When Marnie Was There. And if you haven't seen it yet, go track it down. It is it's a gem. It's a gem of a movie, and I love it. Alright. So, that about wraps it up. Thank you guys for watching. Of course, if you like what you see, subscribe. Let me know what you thought the best movies of 2015 were, if you can remember most of them. If you agree, if you disagree with me. And next week, depending on how my schedule goes, because my schedule next week is weird, I might do the bottom 10 films of last year, the list I'm looking forward to doing. I might record bits and pieces of it here and there, and then just edit it together so it's available for you guys next Wednesday or next Tuesday or whenever. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and as always, have a good one, guys.